America's 1980s, the Mike family experienced a very mysterious case. A happy family of 5 experienced a bizarre incident. The wife and young daughter of the male protagonist, Arthur, were found dead in bed. Arthur and his son mysteriously disappeared. According to video footage, the mansion inexplicably had appearances of a clown with a distorted face. What secrets does the massive mansion they lived in hide? A woman named Margaret is very curious about what happened to this family. She and her companion, Rebecca, decide to explore the mansion in search of the truth. 4 days after they entered the estate, the police received an emergency call from the two of them at 2:21 a.m. The next day, when the police arrived at the scene, they only found their lifeless bodies. Fortunately, Margaret had a habit of recording videos. Now, let's take a look at Margaret and Rebecca's video diary. The Mike mansion is hidden deep in the woods. Margaret and Rebecca arrived at their destination before dark. The estate caretaker led them on a tour of the mansion. First was the bedroom of the Mike family's youngest daughter. She had just turned 17 when she died on this large bed. Next door was the master bedroom of the previous owner. The male protagonist, Arthur, is still missing to this day. His wife also died on the bed. Next was Arthur's eldest son's bedroom. He and his sister were in a car accident. His sister died at the scene. Then Arthur's eldest son mysteriously disappeared. After the caretaker numbly recounted everyone's experiences, he left the mansion. Soon after, Margaret's friend, Chase, appeared. He came specifically to assist with the investigation. According to legend, in October 1989, the male protagonist Arthur killed his wife and children. He then abandoned his son's body and fled. That's why he and his son disappeared one after another. The three of them discussed the case for a while, and then went to their respective rooms to rest. Margaret and Rebecca woke up in the middle of the night. They heard strange noises downstairs. They filmed with their cameras, but didn't find anything unusual. The next day, Rebecca changed the bedsheets in the bedroom as soon as she got up. She filmed everything, but didn't see a bloody corpse lying on the bed. Margaret looked through the items left in the warehouse. The warehouse contained clowns, mannequins, and some stage-like props. At this moment, Rebecca called her to go shopping in town together. As a result, only Chase was left in the manor. He wasn't particularly interested in ghostly murders. After turning on the camera and placing it on the table, he went to the bathroom to freshen up. At that moment, there was a commotion downstairs. Chase picked up the camera and went to investigate, only to find a ball lying on the ground. He cautiously approached the warehouse. Inside, there were only 2 eerie mannequins, and no one else had entered. For safety reasons, Chase went downstairs to check. As he was patrolling the corridor, he suddenly noticed a hand clinging to the wall. Chase was startled. Then the hand disappeared. Before he could react, a masked woman peered out. Chase asked her who she was, but the woman remained silent. On the other side, Margaret and Rebecca arrived at an antique shop. Rebecca noticed a large grandfather clock. It originally belonged to the abandoned hotel. After the hotel burned down, the grandfather clock was sent to the antique shop for sale. She recognized the clock as a famous German brand. Such clocks usually have secret compartments. Rebecca used her memory to fumble around the clock body and find the switch. Inside, there was a cross necklace, a tape labeled 008, and several letters. They discreetly put the items in their bags and took them away. When they returned, they saw Chase standing in the hallway. Chase quickly showed the footage of the masked woman to the other two. That videotape also brought unexpected discoveries for the three of them. The videotape turned out to belong to the Mike family's youngest daughter. She aspired to be a filmmaker, so she had a habit of recording footage. There is also a woman wearing a mask in the footage. However, the bizarre woman in the film is actually Arthur's eldest daughter pretending to be someone else. The girls, along with their brother, teamed up to play a prank and scare their younger sister, who was responsible for recording the video. From the conversation in the footage, we can infer Arthur's eldest son was about to take his sister to the theater. Presumably, they were involved in the car accident shortly after leaving. Apart from the videotape, the clock and letters cannot provide any more information. But why was there a Mike family videotape in the clock compartment? In fact, the eldest son of the Mike family works at the abandoned hotel. These should be his belongings. Just then, the room suddenly lost power. Margot and the two turned on the lights to find the electrical box. As a result, when they got halfway, The circuit was connected. Margaret noticed a red ball appearing out of nowhere in the hallway. The three of them felt a bit scared. Chase didn't want to continue staying there, but the two girls were unwilling to give up easily. Later, Rebecca had a video call with the professor. They discussed their work through a video conference. She took numerous photographs of the buildings to discuss the architectural style of the mansion with the professor. But there was an error in the photos in the document. The photo content gradually approached Rebecca's room from the mansion's entrance to the stairs. However, none of these detailed photos were taken by Rebecca. Then her back appeared in the photos. Rebecca turned around to check and had a feeling that someone was secretly photographing her. The photos in the document kept increasing. In the next photo, there was a woman standing beside Rebecca. She instantly got goosebumps. Rebecca stiffly turned her head, and in the next moment, Arthur's youngest daughter's face was close to Rebecca. This eerie scene scared her. Rebecca immediately went to find Margaret. Rebecca believed that things had gotten out of control. They'd better get out of the manor as soon as possible, but Margaret insisted on staying for another night. In the evening, she continued to look through the letters inside the clock and found a photo. It was a game booth at an exhibition. Two people dressed as clowns were standing in front of the booth. Their costumes were identical to the clown mannequins in the warehouse. Just as Margaret was puzzled, the internal phone in the kitchen suddenly rang. Is there someone else in the house besides them? Chase was the first to go upstairs and discovered a white-clad clown standing in Arthur's eldest son's bedroom. Chase confirmed that the clown was just a model. Rebecca downstairs asked Chase about the situation, but didn't hear a response. Then, a small ball rolled to her feet. Rebecca moved towards the direction of the ball and arrived at the walk-in closet. There, she saw another clown. Her scream attracted her companions. Chase approached to take a look and felt even more strange. He decided to endure the night and leave this place. In the evening, Margaret heard strange noises outside the house. She was about to go out to see, but those sounds suddenly disappeared. Margaret went back to her room to rest. However, the next day, she discovered that Chase, who had slept in the next room, was gone. She and Rebecca tried to call each other and noticed that Chase's phone was on the floor. It was then that Margaret realized she had received a text message from him the previous night. Chase asked her if it was her. It seems that Chase also heard the strange noises last night and mistakenly believed it was Margaret making them. So, where did Chase go now? Let's open his camera and take a look. Last night, Chase sat alone in a chair, drinking. Suddenly, there was a knocking sound behind him, so he put down his glass and went to open the door, but he didn't find anyone there. Chase sent a text message to Margaret asking and then prepared to go to bed, but to his surprise, there were strange sounds again behind the door. He opened the door to check the empty corridor, but there was no one. Chase decided to go to sleep first. However, this time someone pushed open the bedroom door. A clown who had never appeared stood at the end of the bed and stared coldly at Chase. Chase hurried out of the bedroom, but the clown kept following him. Chase ran as fast as he could. Snowflakes appear in the final shot. He let out a brief scream, then a segment from 1989 footage cuts in. It's the unfinished videotape they had before. Arthur's eldest daughter had already been in a car accident. Arthur's son only broke his arm. He is now sitting on the bed in his bedroom. There are 3 clowns placed around him. These are props he brought back from the hotel. His sister noticed his low mood and left her cross necklace behind. And this necklace is one of the items in the clock. Because of the boy's indifferent reaction, Arthur's youngest daughter couldn't help but go through the big box he brought back. Inside the box were several red leather balls. On top of them was a sheet of music. Arthur's youngest daughter played the piano according to the sheet and hummed the lyrics on it. It turns out those letters with unknown meanings were the lyrics on the score. The scene changes. Margaret and the others still haven't found Chase. Rebecca just wants to leave the mansion. Margaret doesn't want to abandon the missing Chase, so she pleads with Rebecca to wait a little longer. In fact, after Margaret and Rebecca were cute, the police discovered the names of the 2 clowns in the photo. They were a pair of brothers. They ran a game booth together and later invested in the abandoned hotel. The eldest son of the Myers family worked at their hotel. The police determined that the clowns were members of a notorious cult in Clarksville, but there was a 3rd set of clown costumes in Chase's footage. No one knows who that person is. In fact, after the car accident in 1989, Arthur's eldest son who had been missing for a long time, had returned. Arthur's youngest daughter was very worried about her brother, because the abandoned hotel had a big fire. All the guests were burned to death. The police said it was a mass suicide case. She wanted to know what had happened at the hotel where her brother worked. Then, her brother said it wasn't death but rather crossing over to another world. He was supposed to go with them. He seemed to be brainwashed by the cult. Arthur's youngest daughter suddenly felt terrified of her brother and quickly hid in her bedroom, afraid to make a sound. Then, she saw a figure in a black robe flash outside. Unfortunately, she didn't survive that night because her brother was the third clown. He and the figure in the black robe belonged to the same cult. They firmly believe that death can transform a person. What happened later is easy to deduce. Arthur's eldest son, in collusion with the cult, killed his parents and sister. They intentionally disposed of their father's body to create the illusion of fleeing in fear and to confuse the police. The scene shifts, returning to Margaret's storyline. The two of them waited for a while, but since they didn't see Kai-Si, they had to choose to leave first. But the car wouldn't start. Margaret suggested walking to the main road first, so they immediately headed towards the main road. Unexpectedly, after walking for a few hours, suddenly there was a miserable scream in the forest. They couldn't help but quicken their pace and ended up encountering several abandoned cars and two mysterious figures wearing black robes. Rebecca screamed and ran away. Margaret followed closely behind. Running, as nightfall approached, they had no choice but to return to Manor. Just then, Margaret received a text message from Kai-Si with just a short hi on it. But the problem was that after they found Kai-Si's phone, they left it in the adjacent room. Instead of checking the next room, they chose to reply to the message first. Margaret asked where Kai-Si had gone, but Kai-Si replied, saying they had met some new friends and wanted to introduce them. Rebecca had a foreboding feeling. The person on the other end of the phone definitely wasn't Kai-Si. The next moment, there was a sound coming from outside the door. Margaret set up the camera and prepared to open the door, but the door opened on its own. She cautiously walked over to check. The phone received another new message. They are now in your room. This statement sent shivers down one's spine. Rebecca and Margaret quickly hid inside the car, but the suspicious figure in the black robe stood in front of the car. They could only run back to the house. Then Kai-Si's voice sounded. Margaret immediately went out to check. Rebecca, however, felt that the person wasn't Kai-Si, so she took out her phone and called the police. This scene was exactly when the police received the call at 21. At that moment, Margaret ran into the house to find Kai-Si, but saw him covered in blood. She screamed and ran away. Unexpectedly, a third clown appeared and grabbed Margaret. The two of them died in Manor like that. We can never know the truth of the matter. The film ends here. The story is about the eldest son in the manor being brainwashed by a clown cult and disguising himself as a clown to harm his family. The story uses a subjective camera perspective of a mockumentary to make the audience feel immersed. The film creates a suitable atmosphere of horror. So, we should all stay away from cults and cherish life. Alright, that's the end of today's story. See you in the next episode.